Welcome to Momnificent.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Karin. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm really excited. I'm so passionate about the subject we're about to talk about because I've experienced it personally myself. And I know I asked you a while ago, I was like, please, we've got to share this with my listeners. Like, I think this will be so helpful. We got to like share this more. So, okay, I have a side question that we didn't plan for. This is my little surprise one. What's something you have done recently that you haven't done for a while that just brings you joy?
Oh my. That
Love
I haven't done for a while that brings me joy.
it.
Well, I can say that now that the weather is starting to turn, I'm actually getting out a little bit more outside. And right now, being in March, that's huge, especially in the state of Maryland. So that's the thing that's bringing me joy.
Oh, I know. I just went for a run. I went for a run yesterday. Did you guys get that snow squall that came through?
Did not where
It
I
was
am.
crazy. I'm out running. I only run for like 20 minutes and like 5 minutes left. I'm like, what? It's snowing.
Oh wow. No,
Oh my
thank
God,
goodness for it. Seems
it
like
was
we've dodged that bullet here.
yeah. Well, it feels like it's been winter forever, so we're ready for this. All right. So,
Yes.
for those of you listening, I'm so excited to welcome Rhonda. Rhonda is a certified level 2 thermography technician by trade, but an avid researcher of all things holistic by passion. What started as a passing interest in health became a full blown quest to determine her own path. And after a massive amount of research and a traumatic life experience, optimal health through an awake living journey became paramount. An overflow of that information worked its way into helping others to see their own personal bio individual path as well. Armed with all the tools necessary to make decisions for themselves, it's become her personal mission and passion to speak on the holistic health related topics, and by urging others to empower themselves with the same ability that you can make informed, educated decisions on your own without relying on the one size fits all standard of care to do the decision making for you. So, again, Rhonda, welcome to Momnificent. What brought you in your life journey to thermography?
It's a great question, Karin. I actually, like a lot of people, I had a very, traumatic experience in my life where my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. I don't think it's an uncommon story anymore for people to hear that, but my journey with my mother actually was a continuation of a journey with my grandmother. So you can only imagine that going through that, my mother, who did go through conventional breast treatment, was very concerned about me. At the time, I was in my mid 30s. I had no idea about, doing anything preventative for breast health. Really, I wasn't there yet. But because of her experience, it did cause me to open my eyes. And she sent me in to her surgeon for a risk management assessment. And the risk assessment was done with a little survey where they just kind of gave me a questionnaire with a lot of things about my lifestyle. Wanted to know, you know, did I did I eat a good diet? Did I smoke? Do I drink? Any of those kinds of things. In the end, they used a little calculator to come up with a calculation on my risk for breast cancer based on all of that, and it was kind of strange, but it came down to a 17% risk. Well, I mean, what's 17%? It seemed, enough of a risk that I should open my eyes to it. But then again, 17%, it was like, how does this equate? So what they did was they told me, you've got to watch your lifestyle, you got to watch your diet, you got to watch all of these things, make sure you don't smoke. And in the end, make sure you get a mammogram right away. And at the time, again, I had no idea about breast preventative screenings of any kind. So I said, well, what exactly does a mammogram tell you? And they said, well, a mammogram will let us know when cancer is in your breast. I was like, what? I'm like, no, 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 no. I said, I want to know sooner so that if I need to make some more lifestyle changes, I said that I can reverse that, that direction. And at the time they said, well, there's nothing like that out there. And of course, being the person that I am, I was like, well, bet me. So
Oh,
that set me off to help me to find something that was going to work because I just couldn't imagine becoming compliant with a screening that I feared, to be honest with you. And I thought to myself, if I'm not going to be compliant with that, what will I be compliant with? I can't just be left alone with nothing.
right. That's crazy. So for those listening, what is thermography And what does it see that a mammogram does not?
Ah, so during my quest to find something that I could actually be screened with that was non-invasive, I didn't want the compression, I didn't want the radiation that was going to come with the mammogram. I was very fearful of that. With fibrocystic breast condition, I couldn't imagine undergoing that compression from a mammogram, and again being compliant with that screening. So I found thermography. Thermography is a physiological look at what's going on in the body. So it's a totally different type of science, but it's basically looking for the same outcome as the mammogram does. A mammogram, an MRI, and an ultrasound are structural screenings. And what that means is that they are looking for abnormal tissue within the anatomy. That's the only preface of those screenings. When it finds that abnormal tissue, it just kind of raises a red flag and we take it from there. With thermography, what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, physiologically, we're looking at heat patterning within the breast. Everyone's heat patterning is as unique to them as their thumbprint. And so we want to get a baseline first. The baseline consists of two screenings separated by one another by at least 3 months to start with. Once we have a side-by-side comparison of that physiology and that heat patterning, if things are stable, then we move forward from there yearly with a screening in breast health to monitor for any change over time. And change over time are the 3 key words when it comes to thermography.
Very good. Well, and the reason why I got into it was because I didn't want the screenings. I didn't want all that radiation exposure. And so through a natural approach is how I learned of it. And what was funny was when I found you, my mom was already going to you and she didn't even tell me, which is like the funniest thing to me. But that's why I want to share this with other women because like I happen to find that on my own. But what if there's so many women out there who can learn that there is an alternative and a preventative way that can help them early on.
Yeah, I
So
have to say, Karin, that part of my push to be in thermography was because I had to think there were other women like me out there too, that were not going to be compliant with the standard, the golden standard. And so what do we do? I mean, here I am at risk. I've got some risk towards breast cancer because of my own family, and I couldn't just become a statistic. So
yeah,
you're absolutely right. How do women find out what's available to them?
yeah, that's why I was so excited to have you share that with us here. So how accurate is thermography versus other screenings, and what can you do to boost the accuracy?
So, thermography, any single mode of screening, whether it's thermography, whether it's a mammogram, an MRI, or an ultrasound, they're all about 85 to 87% accurate in the results. It's a single screening mode. It's got nothing to compare to. You're going to have times when there's false positives or false negatives in that type of screening. So one of the things that I actually bring home with my gals when I see them for screening is doing a double mode of screening, making sure that you're covering all your bases. This is especially important for women who are at high risk, much like myself, or who just want peace of mind. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of fear out there that, just because you find a lump or you have a discomfort in the breast that you've automatically got, a disease going. It's often not the case. And so what can really put a gal at ease is to make sure that she's getting all the preventative screening that she could possibly get to put herself at ease. And what I really like a lot is taking a structural screening and taking thermography. You're looking at things from a structural standpoint. You're looking at things from a physiological standpoint. It's like looking into the house of the body from different windows, if you will. And if you do that, and whether it's a mammogram, an ultrasound, or an MRI in combination with thermography, it boosts that accuracy to 97%, which is amazingly incredible based on today's technology to get that. So I really like the ultrasound in conjunction with the thermography, only because it's non-invasive. You're not talking about compression. You're not talking about radiation. It's actually an easier screening for a lot of gals, especially gals that are cystic or fibrocystic in the breast area.
So walk us through, like, we come to your office. What does the appointment look like? Like you're
Yeah.
talking about these pictures and stuff give us a picture of that. So when someone listening is like, oh, okay, that's what they do there.
Right, exactly. I know. It's funny what I get is sometimes I get some clients that walk through the doorway and I don't know if they expect to be hung by their ankles from the ceiling or put into some great big huge machine, but this thing it's just such a no-brainer. It really is. The camera system is built on high definition technology. I mean, it is state of the art, and the camera really does all the work when it comes to the digital infrared imaging, which is what thermography is. So it's real simple. A gal comes in for a screening, or a man, either one. We actually take the time to go over their history with them. There are intake forms that are done. I really want to get a feel for the person because as a technician, not only am I tasked with making sure that the imaging is done correctly, but I also have to make sure that I turn that history around to the interpreting doctor so that they get an understanding of the client. So I do spend a lot of time, especially during that first screening, to really get that history under my belt and understand what's going on. From there, I actually explain the process. We talk about the fact that I'm going to stand someone in front of the camera system. When I image people, most of the time they're standing. I give them a little bullseye on the rug there to aim for, but they just turn to different geographical locations within the room and I shoot the picture we need. It's really quite that simple. One of the things that, I guess if there was something to be said for being uncomfortable for a few minutes without your clothing on, the imaging takes just moments to conduct. It's really not something that, you feel like you're exposed for any length of time. It is very, very discreet screening. I'm very, very careful about, opening and closing doors when people change and stuff like that. And I make sure that everybody feels comfortable when they come in. So that's generally how it's done. When we're finished screening, I actually will sit down with the person once again and just kind of go over some housekeeping things. I want to make sure that their information is correct so that when the results come in, which take about a week, I know exactly where they're going. Are we sending them through our portal? Are we sending them, through the mail? How do they want to receive them? The other thing I talk to them about is what's next? What's the next step? If it's a gal who's coming in for a breast screening for the very first time and she's never had thermography before, then I want to sit there and explain to her, look, I'm not going to overwhelm you with a whole lot of information. We're going to talk more when I see you the next time. And that second set of images, which is considered the comparative breast screening, is the one where I really dig into, okay, your history says this. This is the background that you've shared with me. Maybe you're very apprehensive already about your screening. Let's talk about what's going to put you at ease. And really what puts them at ease is educating them, getting a gal to understand exactly what it is that she's doing, exactly what her choices are, and giving her the empowerment to make those choices herself it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
And that I know you're so
Yeah.
passionate about, which is why I just love the work that you're doing. It's just beautiful to see you on this path. How does the cost of thermography compare to other screenings?
So actually, other screenings are paid for by insurance companies for the most part. Anytime a gal goes to her doctor and she's of age to have a breast screening, they're going to tell you that the mammogram is the golden standard. The reason why is simply because primary insurance companies will cover it. I mean, of course, the idea here is that women will go for a screening and get that yearly. The problem is, like I said, a lot of women don't want to be compliant with that. They don't want to go through with it. So then it leaves them with a couple of different options that, they have to hash out with their doctor. One of them is, do you want to skip the mammogram? Do we want to go with an ultrasound instead? Less invasive, no compression. Is that a better structural screening? There are some caveats to that. Some insurance companies will not pay for that ultrasound unless a mammogram is done first. Other times, a doctor will have to code a referral in a certain way in order for it to be covered by insurance. But anytime you would have to pay for a screening out of pocket, let's just say it's a mammogram. If a gal had to pay for that out of pocket, she'd be looking upwards of anywhere from $700 to $1,000. That's how much out of pocket it would cost. For thermography, the reason why insurances aren't covering it is because there's just no money in it. Right now, a thermography screening anywhere in the United States is going to run anywhere from about $200 to $300. It's right in that range. And so, Does a flex spending account or a health reimbursement account reimburse it? Yes. We are a coded service. We do have, medical coding that we can put on a super bill. Flex spending cards, HRA cards, all acceptable methods of payment. And then you get reimbursed. You get reimbursed for it. So.
And what's the age that insurance pays for the mammogram? Isn't it like 40?
Yeah, it's kind of questionable right now. The mammogram protocol has gone up and down over the past couple of years. Women's the reason why women under the age of 40 do not get called for a mammogram is because they have young, healthy tissue, and it's written off as being dense when it comes to a mammogram. The density of the breast, the young, healthy tissue, is a detriment to that particular type of equipment. It just can't see through it clearly. If you were to think about having an x-ray of your arm or something like that that's broken, you would be able to see a bone is very white. It's very cloudy in that filming. Well, young, healthy tissue or breast density is the same. It's allowing for a very cloudy look at that filming, and it's very hard to see through and say conclusively, do we or don't we have something going on here? So women under the age of 40 are generally sent for an ultrasound if they're suspected of having an issue. The reason why they're actually wavering on whether or not 40 should be the starting age is because actually we're staying healthy longer. So that breast density is becoming an issue for a lot of women now into their 40s. So there's been some talk about making that actual start of the mammogram at 50. So, so that really leaves a huge hole for women who really would like to be screened sooner to know, hey, what can I do here? And so that's the beauty of thermography, Karin, because women can start a baseline in thermography as young as 28 years old.
And I think that's what got me thinking in this direction eventually, because I had a lump in my breast in my early 20s. They weren't going to find that in some mammogram for another 20 years, right? Or whatever. And that's why I was like, wait a second, why isn't anything more preventive than when you're hitting the ages of 40 that your insurance is going to cover? And then I had a second lump that was removed. And I think you and I had talked about that there's a possibility that, well, they were both benign, that it might have been just part of my natural,
right.
How you explain that so well. And I was like, oh, maybe I might not have needed to have those taken out. So that's what also made me go really question the traditional mammograms. And then hearing the thermography, I was like, wait a second, this is right for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So thermography actually, in a situation like yours, with a stable baseline in thermography, and we're checking you each year for that change over time. If you think about it, a disease in the breast has to become active. And when something like that becomes active, it's your immune system that kicks in and tries to eradicate it. I mean, that's what the whole purpose of the immune system is in the body, is to make sure that things function optimally and correctly. So if something is out of control, if there's a disease that's starting to progress within the breast, the immune system's moving in. And what you're going to see in thermography is you're going to start to see additional areas of heat that were not there when the baseline was set. And that is a very, very early indication that, hey, we've got something that's slightly out of control here that we need to monitor and keep an eye on, as opposed to when a lump or something like that is found in ultrasound and mammogram, it may already have been active for a while. So that's the risk there, is that, if that's the case, you're looking at something that then becomes more of a treatment situation as opposed to a lifestyle change, which is what thermography brings, and in your case, those particular structures seen were just simply flagged as being, red flagged because they were abnormal tissue. And the only way to know if that tissue is actually something of concern when you're dealing with conventional screenings, like structural screenings, is to have a biopsy. And so here you were with 2 biopsies that showed that those were non-active, they were benign. And so in thermography, they probably just would have remained silent. There would have been no indication of any physiological change at that point.
So what's the youngest age you've done thermography on?
So actually, I have seen a gal
below.
What's that?
or what's the age you won't go below? Like, what
Oh,
would be the
so
youngest
I mean, so
say?
technically, if a gal wants to use thermography to start monitoring breast health, we do start at 28. That's what our interpretation service, says. By that point, your hormones have settled out. This is the ideal time to start that. As far as thermography for other things, because I do anything from a single region screening anywhere in the body to a full body. I have seen children as young as 16. I did have a gal one time who had some back pain, lower back pain, and her mother didn't want to put her through the radiology of an X-ray. And so she said, I want to see, where this is, what's going on here. And so we did shoot thermography of just her back to see what was going on. Because here's the thing, thermography, there's no radiation, there's nothing happening with this camera system. It's emitting nothing. It literally is like taking a photograph of you with a camera on a tripod. It's so
That's
simple.
exactly
It's so
what it is.
simple.
So on a
Yeah.
final note, you've been a technician
Yeah.
for over 10 years. Can you share with our audience what you've been working on lately that will provide women with even better healthcare moving forward?
Mhm. Sure, I sure can. So for years I've been watching what's been going on, in the breast prevention world. And one of the things that I've noted over the years is I've had an influx of clients that have had either surgery to the breast where there's some scar tissue. I've also seen women that have had nerve damage from the compression from mammograms. And the problem with nerve damage or with scar tissue is that it can be permanent. There's just no way around that pain for these women. And what they were doing was they were just popping ibuprofen like M&Ms. And I was like, wow, this is not good. This can't be good in the long run for a lot of women, because we all know now, that ibuprofen long term can create organ issues, it can actually shut down organs. So I just became very concerned about these gals. And I felt for them. I was like, what can possibly be done to help them? Well, at the same time that I'm having this epiphany, my husband was working for a processing company down here in Maryland, where we live, that was processing medical grade CBD oil. They were just doing it until it became crude oil, but then they had somebody who was willing to refine it into something that they could make product out of. So at that time, I just started doing some research on, okay, is anybody doing anything with CBD for breast pain? And what I found was a lot of PubMed research, which is third-party research on the CBD product for the breast, where breast cancer was concerned. That there was a lot of pain from breast cancer, and they were seeing results with the CBD. So I was like, you know what? If it works for breast cancer, by golly, it's got to work for these gals that have the scar tissue or have the nerve damage or have fibrocystic breast pain. And so we started beta testing it. I actually used a couple of clients as my guinea pig for beta testing. They volunteered. And we finally got to a strength of the CBD that worked for them. And then it became, do we want to find a way to make this a pleasant experience for women to apply something to the breast that was that strong? And so we actually worked it into a beautiful lotion with a lot of essential oils. It's all organic. Really lovely. And then from there took it into the applicator. So the applicator itself is also very unique. There's no need for a gal to get her hands into it. The applicator actually does it just very much like a
Wow.
roll-on.
Wow.
So
So
yeah, so it's
exciting.
been,
Oh my God. I know.
yeah, we released that in January of 2023. And I'll tell you a real quick story because this one was kind of funny. Of course, I've been advertising it, for breast. I've been, advertising it for breast health. But I saw a client for her annual breast screening about a year ago this time. And she said to me, she said, if CBD works on the breast, she goes, it would probably work on the pain I've had in my hip.
Stop. Oh,
So she took a sample of it and then called me a week later. She goes, I've got to have it. She goes, it actually works. She goes, they're telling me it's nerve damage in the hip. There's nothing I can do about it. She goes, but this stuff actually helps to relieve that
so
pain for
awesome.
me. So yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of studies going on with CBD. I think we're going to see a lot more of it in the future. But this particular product, I was really pleased to, be able to see that as a niche, see that as something where women really kind of needed help and to be able to provide that
I
for them.
love that. So Rhonda, how can someone find and follow you?
Oh, sure. So I'm located in the Mid-Atlantic area. Right now, I travel mobily with my camera system. It's very mobile, and so I'm on the road quite a bit. So you won't probably find me behind my desk, but I do have a website that's pretty comprehensive. You can go to that website. There's a lot of information on frequently asked questions. You can actually see where I am, what my schedule looks like, and stuff like that. And I do post blogs at least once every month, trying to do something with, female health and allowing, women to, garner an education from what I know and from what I can help them with. And that website is just simply insight-holistic.com. And that's INSIGHT, and then dash like in a phone number, and then the word holistic,
And I
HOLISTIC.com.
love how, because people might be wondering, like, well, if you travel, like, where do you do your sessions then? And I a lot of times where I've gone is like to local chiropractors in my area, and you just link up
Yes.
with different, like, even like massage places or things like that, and you'll just rent out like a room and be there for the day, and then that's how we come. And I've never had to drive like more than like close to like 40 minutes to.
Right. Yeah. The push for me, honestly, Karn, was, when I started with thermography, I had to drive quite a distance to get to it initially. I mean, we're talking about 2006. Back in those days, the camera system just was not in my state. And so, when I felt the push to get involved in thermography as a technician, my purpose and my passion was to bring it close so that women didn't have to drive to a major city to get it. And so I can honestly say I've driven all over my territory and then some. And I absolutely love the clinics that I work in. I try to ally with clinics that are very like-minded to what it is that I do. It's a very professional service that I offer, and I'd like everybody to feel comfortable and, know that they're being cared for when they're
Well,
with
I
me.
definitely do, which is why I appreciate you coming on today and sharing with us. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, reach out to Rhonda. If you know someone if you know women in your life, please tell them about this. Like, this is just such a number one way to take care of our health in a very natural way. Um, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Rhonda, so much.
Yeah, thank you, Karin. I mean, word of mouth is the way to get thermography out there. When a woman understands that she has choices, it's just huge. It's
Yeah,
huge.
well, invaluable. Thank